Thanks, Lindsey. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. I am Chris Bristol, City Editor of the Daily Courier newspaper in Grants Pass. One of the most influential powers we have as citizens is exercising our right to vote. However, with this power comes a civic responsibility to consider our options and make informed decisions. The Illinois Valley Community Development Organization and the Daily Courier appreciate that you are here to be an informed voter in this election. I'd like to start by introducing the candidates in the May 19th primary for the Josephine County Board of Commissioners Position 2. We have Dan DeYoung, the incumbent, who is seeking re-election to a second four-year term. And we have his three challengers, Dan Mancuso, Mark Seligman, and Ron Smith. Before we begin, I'd like to point out that this is a forum, not a debate. The questions that I am asking tonight are a mix that have been sourced from the community and from the organizers, including myself. They all relate to the scopeable work of a Josephine County Commissioner. The candidates will take turns answering 8 questions. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute, but not more. Before we get to those questions, however, they will each have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. The order they go in will be random. Lindsey, please draw the first name out of the bag. And it is Ron Smith. Ron, I believe you are up.
Well, that's a good thing. It's kind of unique forum we're having here, and I appreciate you guys putting it on tonight. It's a good thing. I'm Ron Smith, candidate for Josephine County Commissioner Position 2. I'm the People's Commissioner. Why do I say the People's Commissioner? I'll give you 5 good reasons. Number 1, I've worked on the people side of government for over 20 years, defending our property rights, our liberties, and our freedom. I want to continue that work as your commissioner. 2, because when you elect me, you elect a man of integrity, somebody who will honestly listen and hear your concerns. I'll never forget I served the people of Josephine County. 3, I'm a team player. I'm on the people's team. I'm not a politician. I'm just like you, believing in lower taxes, fiscally responsible, and transparent government. 4, I have no hidden agendas. I will openly work to see the people's will expressed through county government, and be your voice in government. As a conservative, I'm done letting politicians spend our tax money on nonsense. Oh, we're robbed by drifters, choked by smoke, and gouged by outrageous housing costs. I want to focus as your commissioner on 4 main areas while I'm your commissioner: law enforcement, housing, the homeless, and jobs. I think that we need to have a safe community. So I shall support the sheriff in all of his work to reduce crime and the drug problem. Boy, that's not very long. Anyway, I want to focus on those 4 areas: law enforcement, funding, housing, affordable, the homeless, solving that problem, that's a tough one, and jobs, creating jobs, streamlining the process for any developments to create jobs. I've been in this county all my life. I was born in Josephine County. My family's been in the county for over 120 years. I do know Josephine County, and I believe I can best serve the people of Josephine County as their commissioner. I've been doing it all my life. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ron. Lindsey, are we going to now pick the second person's name? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Here we go.
All right, it's Dan Mancuso. Dan?
Hello, I'm Dan Mancuso. I moved to the Illinois Valley when I invested in Josephine County 10 years ago. I chose to live here. I chose to make this my home and actually invest my money into helping our community become a better place. Along with my wife, Laura, we run the newspaper Today, as well as the Upper Rogue Independent in Eagle Point. Together, we have 5 children. The oldest 2, Abby and Ellie. Abby's a speech pathologist in Denver, and her sister Ellie is a behavioral science specialist in Denver as well, working with autistic children. CJ Shaza is our copy editor, and he's a reporter for both the IV News and the Independent. We have two sons. John Mancuso is going to Illinois State University in the fall, and Jackson Shaza is a freshman at University of Oregon. I love the Illinois Valley. That's why I'm running for county commissioner. For 10 years, I've watched almost 1,000, probably more than 1,000 county commissioner meetings, watched them, attended, or listened to them. I don't just show up for public comment and then leave. I'm generally the only person left at the meeting when it's over. Being a county commissioner, it's a job. We're all applying for a job. And I don't know if everybody running for this or applying for this job understands that. There's four things. There's an administrative, where you oversee the department heads. There's a legislative aspect where you repeal ordinance or create ordinances. There's the lobbying aspect, where you talk to Salem and Washington, D.C. and trying to get them to see things the way we want them to. And then the fourth aspect of the job of being a county commissioner is quasi-judicial, where you make rural land use decisions, and you could possibly be overruled by LUBA. So you have to make sure that you're not sloppy and you do things correctly the first time. I'm qualified to do this job, and I would appreciate your vote on May 19th.
All right, thanks, Dan. Next up is going to be, it's going to take a second. Looks like it's going to be Mr. DeYoung. Dan DeYoung, you're up.
Thank you, Vaj. First, Lindsey, Chris, Kenny, and Forrest, appreciate you hosting this and putting this on. It's a different way of doing things. Usually forums are in the community building out in Cave Junction with 45 to 50 people there. I was born and raised in Josephine County and Grants Pass in particular, and I was graduated from Grants Pass High School. I have a wife of 50 years and 2 children. But getting back to what I think the commissioners are all about, I've been a commissioner here for the last 3.5 years. I thoroughly enjoyed, first off, I enjoy the job. I enjoy coming to work every day for the people of Josephine County. But one of the main things I really appreciate is the high quality of employees that the Josephine County, in this Josephine County system. It's our directors and department heads and all the employees do a fantastic job and day in and day out. I'm liaison to a whole host of different departments here at the county, and sometimes it's not a really nice job from the standpoint that when you step up to the microphone, there's a lot of people that disagree with you, and there's a lot of people that agree with you. One of the things that I've found interesting, though, is when you really delve into the issues and have legal counsel helping you out all along the way with Councilor Wally Hicks. It's pretty important. It's to make the right decision and keeping the county's interest at the very best. And a lot of times that doesn't set well with some people, but I think we've done a fantastic job over the last 3.5 years. I've seen an awful lot of good things come to Josephine County and good things happen in Josephine County. I thoroughly enjoy working at this particular job, and I just hope that I'm elected to 4 more years to finish up some of the stuff we've gotten started. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. And I guess we don't need to pick the last one. We know it's going to be Mr. Seligman. Mark?
Yes, good evening, everybody. This is Mark Seligman. The reason I'm running for county commissioner is I'm an Illinois Valley resident for 25 years. I think we need representation from county residents, not just city residents, which we have right now. Like I say, I'm a 25-year resident of Selma, Oregon. I have 2 degrees, one in sociology and one in business administration. I've been in landscape maintenance for 40 years. I've lost 2 homes, one to a mudslide and one to a fire, and I've battled back. I show great fight when something important has to be done. I see great hope in Josephine County for the future. However, we are currently going through extremely trying times with the COVID-19. Josephine County, I'm afraid, is on the verge of a recession or worse, a depression. We have people out of work. That really concerns me. We have families in financial distress. That concerns me. We are often the first to suffer and last to recover. As a county commissioner, my goal is to make life easier for citizens, not harder. I propose a revolutionary tax holiday for all residential and commercial real estate, so you will pay no property taxes for 1 year. I propose to incentivize business with no permit fees for 1 year. As a commissioner, I will fight for federal stimulus money and renewal of SRS payments in lieu of these taxes. My goal is prosperity, compassion, and no new taxes. Compassion for all of us, families, homeless, everybody. I am one of you. For 25 years, I've been in this community. I have worked here, I have socialized here, and I have seen the trials and tribulations of people. Once we get through these trying times, I hope to be your commissioner so that we can go on to the prosperity that we deserve. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Now we're at the question and answer phase of the evening. Again, there will be 8 questions with each candidate getting 1 minute per question to respond. A random rotation of order has been assigned. After this segment, there may be time for live questions from the audience, but this is the main portion of the evening. The first question, and according to the rotation that I have, is going to be, the first candidate is going to be Ron Smith. I guess you went first last time too. The question is, previous commissioners have described the job as political, but it also involves a fair amount of administrative work. Please tell us about your management experience and how you believe this job is defined.
County commissioner is the top executive and top legislature in the county. The job is defined by really, as an elected official, you represent the people. So you're there to take care of the people and listen to the people. This is not a job where you work for government. You're actually supposed to be working for the people's best interest. So when department heads are important, I had a friend who was a county commissioner many years. He said he used to meet weekly with the department heads. They're really the managers. You're the overseer. The biggest thing a commissioner does is make decisions. They're decision makers. So the job is defined by, 1, representing the people, making decisions that benefit the people, and it's for really doing the people's will, because so much of the time government is got their own ideas of what the people want. I want to listen to the people, hear their concerns, and be their voice inside county government. It's really important that people are represented.
All right, thanks, Ron. Mark Seligman, you're next.
Would you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Previous commissioners have described the job as political, but it also involves a fair amount of administrative work. Please tell us about your management experience and how you believe this job is defined.
Well, as far as my management experience, I've run a landscape maintenance business for 40 years. There's a lot involved in doing that, tools, people that are working with you, et cetera. On a county level, the job of a commissioner is to coordinate the various departments. You're going to be a liaison to at least one, but you're actually the buffer between the people and county government. It's your choice whether you choose to go along with staff or whether you choose to go along with, which can sometimes be different interests by citizens. My goal as a county commissioner is to represent the citizens, not to represent government staffers. Each has their own agenda. I would circulate throughout the community and see what the needs are that the public has, and then coordinate that back with the various departments. It's really important. I've seen many commissioners say one thing when they campaign for office, and when they get into office, they're literally become engulfed by the people around them. That is something I promise never to do. I always represent the interests of the people and their needs first, and what the government staffers' needs are second. So it is political and it is administrative. That is correct.
All right. Audience members, just to be clear, there is a 10-second overlap on that 1 minute. I'm not sure if Mark went totally over the way over that, or if he got muted. That's okay. Mr. Mancuso, you are up next.
Question right, because I'm not hearing the same answers to the questions. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Previous commissioners have described the job of commissioner as political, but it also involves a fair amount of administrative work. Please tell us about your management experience and how you believe this job is defined.
Well, I currently run 2 corporations in 2 different counties, so I really rely heavily on technology. In the past, I ran 13 newspapers in 3 states. And so I understand how to manage people, how to control budgets. I also ran the Chicago office for a publicly traded staffing company back in the day. So as far as managing people and managing budgets, I would say outside of marketing, that's my strength. Looking at using critical thinking to identify problems and help your staff solve those if they want your help. I just think that's one of my strengths, and I think I have a lot of experience in managing up to hundreds of people at a time. So to step into the role as county commissioner and understand what my responsibilities are from an administrative level, it's basically to give my department heads the tools they need when they ask me for it, and also to maybe keep an eye on things.
All right, thanks, Dan. I'm hearing that we have 60 participants now on this forum, which I think is really outstanding. Dan DeYoung, you are batting cleanup here.
Yeah, and appreciate the question. I ran a heating and air conditioning business here in Grants Pass in the whole Rogue Valley and including Medford and over the coast for about 41 years as an employer. And, when you talk about how the politics, then you move into something else. Well, the politics ends when you raise your hand and take this office. Politics is always there, but the main part that I find very satisfying, but at the same time is challenging, is as you work with your various department heads and directors, picking out the very best of what they know, and then also when they come with a challenge, ask them how they would handle it, and then just work with them to see if that's the best solution for the citizens of Josephine County. It's been very satisfying, and we've got a great group of people. I do check in with my liaisons. I've got, I think, 7 or 8 different departments I'm liaison to, and I check with them every Monday just to see how things are going.
All right, thanks, Dan. This next question is a little bit more of a hot button topic. Describe the responsibility the Board of Commissioners has, if any, in brokering a peaceful coexistence between pot farmers, hemp farmers, and people who don't like them. Do you think cannabis can play a role in economic development in Josephine County? And Dan DeYoung, you are up first.
Yeah, thank you very much. First off, legal marijuana grows, legal cannabis grows of any kind, they're here. It's an Oregon state law. Oregon approved the growing of cannabis and the dispensing of cannabis. I'm all for it as long as it's done legally. In traveling around the county, there seems to be a lot more grows than there is permits, and that's of real concern to me. I've also worked with a number of different growers on different aspects of the marijuana industry. I've been out in the field to different grows. I've been to a state-of-the-art hemp farm this last year just because I wanted to see how the thing worked and was very satisfied. I think that it can be here. I think it can grow and it can be an economic driver for Southern Oregon. But I'm looking at the poorest communities in Oregon happen to be in Josephine County. And but I find out that most of the stats come off of the federal tax returns.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Ron Smith, you're next.
Well, I'm really pleased to see that the farm fields are being put into production, and that's been a mainstay for Josephine County since the day I was born. I'm pro-producer, and I'm a real property rights advocate. I believe this is a property rights issue, and it's also a legal issue. And I agree with the commissioner that the legal grows are fine. And I like to see, I think tens of millions of dollars got dropped into Josephine County in the hemp explosion, which we saw last year. So really, I'm kind of one of those guys that believe you can do what you want on your property until what you're doing affects your neighbor's property rights. That's where you have to draw the line. And so I know I've had a lot of people talk to me on different issues on the marijuana, and I can understand their side, but I also believe that it's private property. And the water issue is going to be something that has to be addressed. It's a serious issue. And there are a lot of people that are growing that are not legal. They're not doing it according to law. I think it's all going to flush itself in the end. It's a growing industry. I think it has a future, but it has to be legal and done right.
All right, thanks, Ron. Mark Seligman, you're next.
Like Ron Smith, this is a private property rights issue first and foremost. I have never seen a county kick $1 billion industry to the curb like Commissioner DeYoung and his 2 county commissioners have done. I have defended the rights of cannabis growers for 10 years. The state has ruled that Josephine County was wrong regarding LUBA in the attempts that they tried to derail the cannabis industry. I seek a legal marijuana industry with neighbors that get along. Like Ron Smith says, once you start bothering your neighbor, that's a whole different story. We need the cannabis industry. It's another industry from the ground up. We cannot have commissioners saying the good people are leaving and the bad people are staying. That's a statement from Commissioner DeYoung. I want to see Josephine County have some prosperity. Cannabis is a catalyst for other investors and other businesses. And we used to have logging, which I'm for. We have tourism and medical.
Okay, Mark. Mark got cut off because he went a little over time. Dan Mancuso, you are last on this question.
So Josephine County is a rural agricultural based economy, whether it be mining, logging, cannabis, hemp, Pinot Noir grapes. That's what we are. And we're not going to we don't have a labor force that's going to attract pharmaceutical corporations or big manufacturing to come here because we're rural. Josephine County needs to focus on the tools that we have in our toolbox, and hemp and marijuana are 2 very large ones. The person who currently holds the job that I'm hoping that you guys hire me for actually came out and declared war on cannabis. When he's running for office, he says he's pro-cannabis, but when he's in office, he actually tried to ban our cannabis growing on R5, did it improperly, was overturned by LUBA because it was sloppy work, and it's actually ended up costing the county thousands of dollars. And to be honest with you, it really didn't end up solving the problem. I say we embrace cannabis and hemp, and we encourage it until it kicks us in the teeth.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mancuso. We're up to question number 3 now. As a commissioner, what is the attitude that you will bring to work with the public, county staff, and the other 2 commissioners? And Dan Mancuso, you are up first on this one.
Chris, I apologize. I was thinking of what I just said.
I'll ask it again.
Please.
As a commissioner, what is the attitude you will bring to work with the public, county staff, and the other 2 commissioners?
Well, for starters, I'm going to take my passion for Josephine County and Southern Oregon. As a marketing guy, as an advertising guy, I believe that I can really promote Josephine County to the people who actually control the purse strings and get them to see things the way we want them to. I get to define, we in Josephine County, Josephinians get to define who we are. And I'm tired, for starters, of outside people telling us who we are. And that's going to, I'm going to combat that under my tenure here. I think that the biggest problem in Josephine County right now is an attitude problem. We have a self-esteem issue. When you have the sheriff of Jackson County saying, I won't drive through Cape Junction without a gun, we got a problem. And I believe that I'm the one that actually can promote us in the proper light, because as a moderate, I have to deal with people from far extremes on the right and left, and I can get along with everybody. And I think that that's the real value that I would bring to Josephine County. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Um, it was just, that's okay. It was just, how do you work with the public and the other two commissioners? And Dan DeYoung, you're number 2 on this one.
Well, first off, we are individual commissioners to get elected on the political side, but once we're in the realm of the board of county commissioners, it takes 3 commissioners voting 2 to 1 or 3 to zip or whatever. We have to work together as a team. Oftentimes that's tough to do, but I think with 3 different people coming in from 3 different walks of life, you're going to get a debate from time to time. I think debate is really healthy. When I first came on here, they wanted, everybody wanted to know, just around the room, what's your goal here? And I said, I think it's public perception of county government. And that goes from the guy from Public Works with the stop slow sign at a construction site all the way up to the Board of County Commissioners. I think we've done a pretty good job of representing the actual staff, because we do our work, we're who you pay for. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. It's not always easy, and sometimes it's really tough to go against the other 2 commissioners, but we all have done it once or twice.
Okay. Mark Seligman, you're next.
Please repeat that question.
Sure. As a commissioner, what is the attitude you will bring to work with the public, county staff, and the other 2 commissioners?
That's a very good question, Chris. Right now, what nobody is even considering, at least I haven't heard him say, is we have a COVID-19 crisis. If ever there's a time for county commissioners and staff to get together to help the public, this is it. The job of a county commissioner is to reassure the people right now that we will get through this. Whatever else we talk about, cannabis, taxes, is all secondary. We're in the fight for our lives right now, literally. If we don't instruct our staff to help people out as much as we possibly can, we're not doing our job. We have people that don't even have a job right now. That's the most important thing on my mind. The Public Health Department has made some statements lately that are slightly confusing as far as the amount of COVID-19 cases. It's the job of the county commissioners to rail in the public health director so that we know where these cases are. We know their age groups. They weren't doing that. So all this other stuff is irrelevant. What's relevant right now is we're in a fight for our health and our economic lives.
Okay. That means Ron Smith, you're up next.
Okay. I would like to bring an attitude of unity to the people and an attitude that they really have a representative of county government. I work well with other people, and like Dan said, it takes 2 decisions to make any decisions. So you do have to be a team player, and I've been a team player most of my life, mostly the leader. But it's really an issue of representing the people. When you're elected to office, you actually raise your hand and take an oath. That oath is to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So that's my main driver right there, that as a representative, as a commissioner, I will defend the people's constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That includes a lot of things. So listening is a very important key. So I'll bring an open door policy and total transparency to the commissioner's office. Listen and hear people's concerns. It's important that we understand what the people's will is, because that's really what we're supposed to do for county government, the people's will.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. We are now up to question number 4. This one's a little long, so everybody tune in on this one. At Oregon State University, we have some of the best scientists in the country. Hang on a second. Their position matches that of 97% of climate scientists around the world, that the climate crisis is tied directly to human behavior, specifically the burning of fossil fuels. What's your preferred approach to creating resiliency in your community in the era of a changing climate? And Mark Seligman, you're up first on this one.
First of all, I believe that we have a climate crisis right now. It's an issue that we all have to deal with. On a state level, there was a big brouhaha, cap and trade my position on that is an interesting one. If we have to make changes in our lives because the public votes higher taxes, more regulation, I am only okay with that if they subsidize the individual and the business. For example, I have a friend who's a tree service. He needs to put on $4,000 worth of equipment. Well, that should at least be a shared partnership with government. He shouldn't have to pay that himself. If government feels there's a climate change issue, then government needs to chip in with dollars, just like my friend in the tree service. You got to put your money where your mouth is. So you just can't put it all on the business or all on the individual.
Thanks, Mark. Dan Mancuso, climate change.
You know, we can always do something that's going to create less of an impact on our planet. I personally, I believe in math. And math tells me that human beings have some sort of impact. They're making an impact on our planet. Do I feel that that the Earth is gonna come to end as we know it in the next 2 years? I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think it's hard for anyone to scoff, like our current Board of County Commissioners does, on the idea of climate change. They laugh like, "Oh, we're planting trees, we're saving the planet." I think that's irresponsible, and I just think that there are ways, even if you don't believe in climate change, or if you don't believe that human beings are impacting our planet, you certainly can believe in saving money. And there are ways that the county can save money through grants through Blue Sky to put up solar panels on every single county building. It'll save us all some money, and for those of us that care about our planet, well, it'll help us too.
All right, thank you. Ron Smith, climate change.
I think it's a very politicized issue. I don't think the jury's really in yet, because I know there's a scientist right in the Illinois Valley who got 30,000 signatures from other qualified scientists around the world. So I think the jury is still out. I think that we could do things and do things better to always treat the environment better. There's no problem there. But as far as taxing the people to have a less than 0.1% effect on carbon, China's built 137 coal-fired plants. Japan's going to build 30 coal-fired plants, and we're shutting them all down. So the issue is really not decided. What can the commissioner do? The commissioner can't do much, but solar panels, if you look at where solar panels are made, all the materials come out of foreign land, and a lot of it was slave labor, and it produces a lot of CO2 in just the process of producing that material. So I think the jury's still out.
Okay, thank you. Dan DeYoung, climate change.
Well, man-made climate change, I'm sure man has a very distinct effect on climate change, or on the climate in general, as changing up or down. One of the things that we're really lucky to live in the Rogue Valley, because I'm a member of the Middle Rogue Metropolitan Planning Organization. And when we were formed about 4 or 5 years ago, we were told that we would have to meet a 25% reduction in our greenhouse gases, 20% reduction in greenhouse gases by the years 2025. We got, last year, we received word that the Rogue Valley had already met and exceeded its 2025 reduction in greenhouse gases. So we're really locally, we're doing, on a county level, we're doing really pretty good. There's all kinds of abuses all over the world. And I think that right here in Josephine County, we're doing what we can. We have an energy audit right now for our building here that I'm sitting in, and for solar panels. So we're looking into all of that. Not necessarily all of them, but some of them.
All right, thank you, Dan. Ron Smith, you're going first on this one. Question number 5, the county is exploring the formation of a fire district. Are you for it or against it?
I'm undecided. I'm undecided on the fire district. They can be a good thing. Illinois Valley has a fire district, serves the people well. Wolf Creek has a fire district. I think it's a need. The only thing that I have questions about is structure and cost. So is this going to be less expensive than hiring rural metro or county fire? Or is this going to be more expensive? And is this going to give a monopoly to county fire? To rural metro. So the question becomes the cost and the structure of it. The thing with the taxing district, a taxing district never goes away. Taxes never go down in a taxing district, they only go up. So in the future, we don't know what this is going to look like. We have to look at the structure, what the cost is going to be. The cost is going to be a big thing because they can get fire coverage right now from rural metro, or even a little cheaper through county fire. So it's not like there's not protection out there, but the question is, what's the cost to the taxpayers?
Thanks, Ron. Dan DeYoung, Fire District.
Yeah, currently we are just we have a fire district committee that's looking into all the aspects of the fire district and what the nuances would be, what it would look like. One thing we need to remember that the Board of County Commissioners will not force a fire district on you. Basically what it amounts to is that we as Board of County Commissioners, we have an obligation to everybody in Josephine County for some form of fire protection. Now, what that looks like in the end, like say you have the Illinois Valley Fire District, you have Wolf Creek Fire District, those are high functioning organizations, but there's a good portion and a good amount of Josephine County that's not covered by any fire district. Keeping in mind that we can't force fire district on you, all we can do is put together a proposal and refer it to the voter. If the voters say no, then it doesn't go anywhere. So you have the final say on that. It's our job to make it palatable and see if it's affordable, and then it goes to the voter. So we're still working hard on this, and you'll see something hopefully in the not too distant future.
Thank you. Mark Seligman, Fire District.
I live in the Illinois Valley and I pay a yearly fee tax. If anybody can talk about fire, it's me, because my house burned down about 5 years ago. Regarding a fire district, I think it's very foolhardy, but it's the person's right, like in where rural metro serves those areas in the North Valley. If you own a home there, you're not forced to have a fire district. If your house is burning, they will come out and they will put it out for you and they will bill you. So it's a wise economic move to be part of a fire district. On the other hand, it's another tax, it's another fee. It's regarding Commissioner DeYoung saying, we just put it on the ballot. In my experience, you don't put something on the ballot unless you're for it. I will come out and tell you, I would not put it on the ballot. If a person wants to be foolhardy enough and not apply for rural metro as subscription, that's their right. Like I say, my house burned down. We cannot, and a fire district never goes away. So that's my feeling on that. It's just another tax that county government would like to foist upon you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Dan Mancuso, you are in the late position on this one.
All right, Chris. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that county fire has a mutual aid agreement with rural metro. I could be wrong. I believe that I believe in it. And one of the other people applying for this job, they always talk about freedom of speech, and voting is the #1 source of freedom of speech, and the people should be able to have that decision. My biggest concern with private fire services in rural area is, what if one of them goes bankrupt? What if there's no mutual aid agreement and rural metro or Grants Pass Fire District won't come out and service a county fire person's thing? And to say that it's up to someone if they don't want to pay the subscription fee, to me it's irresponsible, because we all pay it. If you don't pay for your fire, all the other members in that thing do. So I think that a fire district, if that's what the folks up in North Valley and Merlin want, I think they should have it, and they should be responsible for it themselves.
Thanks, Dan. That question went by pretty fast. We're up to question number 6. Dan DeYoung, you're going to be going first on this one. The question is, knowing that the county is growing and changing, what investments need to be made in planning and infrastructure now? Dan DeYoung.
And traffic control. Also, we have more people. We have more need for law enforcement. I've worked pretty hard since I've gotten in here to try to find a way other than property tax to fund law enforcement. I've never put anything forward to the people or any suggestion forward to the people that didn't go towards law enforcement. One example of that is the levy that we passed. Sheriff Daniels and I worked very hard, did a lot of town halls and everything to make sure that the truth got out. And then we followed with oversight and follow up on that, because the Sheriff's Department and where that money goes through that levy, it all goes right, it's audited every year. But I think mostly the roads and public safety are our greatest concern. You've got some issues with the schools, but that's up to the school boards.
All right, thanks, Dan. Mark Seligman, you're next.
Could you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Knowing that the county is growing and changing, what investments need to be made in planning and infrastructure now?
When you're going through a financial crisis, and when you have, again, COVID-19, no other candidate is bringing this up. That's disappointing. It cannot be business as usual. We're going to be in financial distress. We have people without jobs. To talk about investing, the government investing money, again, my tax holiday would mean the county will receive less money. So you certainly can invest. Regarding the tax levy that Commissioner DeYoung talks about, I might remind the public that 4 years ago, Commissioner DeYoung said he would not put it on the ballot. He wasn't for it. He gets into office, and 4 months later, guess what? It's on the ballot when hardly anybody voted. So my whole thing about investment is we need an investment in people's lives right now. We can't be taxing them. We can't be telling the county to invest. The county needs to save money. So that's my feeling on investment, not now.
Okay, Mark. Dan Mancuso, planning and infrastructure.
Well, let me start with cutting $31.5 million out of Josephine County budget right now is the last thing we need as far as for infrastructure in Josephine County. Outside of obvious law enforcement and roads, which we need, the biggest thing that Josephine County and all rural America lacks is broadband internet. If you want to really underscore the real issue that we have right now with the COVID-19 is that we have children that are home that are trying to do their online schooling, and they don't have access to internet. There's a local company here in the Illinois Valley that's going to put is trying to put a web out in the high school parking lot so children can go there and do their homework. Broadband internet in rural areas is something that the county actually could invest in. The county could actually own the fiber. Actually, the fiber is already here. They could own the poles and actually use that to promote telehealth and telework in these rural areas. And if, as county commissioner, if you really wanted to expand on our infrastructure, that is the one area that I think that we should do now.
Thanks, Dan. Ron Smith.
You know, I've asked myself many times, what services does the average citizen use? Because the county does provide a lot of services, but who are they serving? The biggest thing I've come up with for myself, and I think most people would agree, would be roads. So we have to plan ahead on our roads. There's plans for a fourth bridge going across the Rogue River, probably right close to the fairgrounds. I think that'll happen someday. Other than that, I think I kind of agree that it's time for government maybe to take a backseat, and maybe they need to tighten their belt, because I'm going to tell you, all the small business owners and the people are definitely tightening their belts through this COVID epidemic that we have going here. So I think public safety, I would like to see us plan for having a detective department back in the sheriff's office, because unfortunately, they're not investigating crime. So how do you catch the bad guys if you're not fingerprinting crime scenes and going out there and going after the bad guys? So we could have a revolving door if we'll fund a detective department in the county sheriff.
Thanks, Ron. It's almost like you knew what the next question was going to be. I know you didn't. Dan Mancuso, you are going first on this next question, however. The county's 5-year public safety levy passed in 2017 after 6 tries, and it expires in 2022. If you are elected, it will expire in the middle of your term. Do you support renewing it?
Yes, without a doubt. I sit and look out on Highway 199 7 days a week, essentially. And I can tell you, while it may have taken them a while to hire and train and ramp up to where they had enough people for it to be safe, for those people to be on the road and in the jailhouse, I can tell you without a doubt that it is 100 times better than it was before. That I believe that the service we receive right now, at least out here in the city of Cape Junction and in the Illinois Valley, that Sheriff Daniel and his staff are doing a bang-up job. And I believe with the jail levy, adding that on has freed up, I think it's given him about $7 million. It's freed up a lot of money for him to do rural patrol. We're just about to see where we're going to have 20 hours a day rural patrol, which is solid. And I'm actually trying to come up, I've got some ideas. The sheriff needs about $4 million more. We could have 24/7 and have a detectives division. And I'm already about halfway there to pay for that.
Thanks, Dan. Dan DeYoung.
Yeah, and if you talk to law enforcement, city, county, it doesn't matter what branch of law enforcement you talk to, OSP, they'll say that the passage of that levy was the actual turnaround point for law enforcement in Josephine County. Dan Mancuso is absolutely right. It did free up some money and to put into rural patrol. Just some of the stats, just since that, the sheriff's been ramping up his patrol. This last year, over the last 3 months, January, February, and March, there's been almost 2,000 calls for service in the Illinois Valley. That was never heard of before that levy came through. And I'm very proud to even be part of that. Sheriff and I teamed up and we did, I think we took the brunt of it. We walked the plank and it worked out this time. But we're coming up on that. You're absolutely right, Chris. This is coming up in a couple of years. I've got a couple of things that I'm working on right now. And but we may have to come back for all of that levy or part of it. It may be reduced.
Thanks, Dan. Ron Smith, you're up.
Well, I'm very pro law enforcement because I believe the first responsibility of government is to have a safe society and a safe community. If they fail in that area, there's no use in going anyplace else, because if you live in a crime zone, you don't care about anything else. That being said, I'm not a tax person. The state just over the whole spectrum just raised our taxes 43% this last. Now the governor's coming out with more taxes, the hidden taxes, because she's implementing the cap and trade to executive order. As far as the levy goes, that's really the people's choice. I'm one person. The people have to make the decision what level of service they want. If they want more law enforcement, they can pay for it. They can vote a tax in. There's a process for putting an initiative on the ballot for the people to vote. I'm going to leave it up to people because I'm running as a people's commissioner, and I believe in representing the people of Josephine County.
All right, thanks, Ron. Mark Seligman.
First of all, I'm all for law enforcement. I think you always must get to the cause of crime, not the symptom. The cause of crime is that we're a poor county. We need some prosperity here. We can't be kicking billion-dollar industries to the curb. If we have prosperity, we're going to have less crime. But right now, we're in survival mode. One of the previous candidates mentioned that I want to get rid of 31.5 million. No, what I'm talking about is we need county commissioners that will lobby the state and the federal government for part of this federal stimulus money. So if people can't pay their taxes and my tax holiday gets agreed upon, we will have money from the federal government to pay for law enforcement and a renewal of SRS payments. Once upon a time, SRS payments were as much as 16 million to the county. That should pay for law enforcement. We cannot impose more taxes on our people. What are you going to do? Foreclose people's houses when they don't have a job? That's my concern. you put a financial burden upon people here, you'll have more crime. Again, the federal government and SRS payments.
All right, thanks, Mark. We're down to the last question of the 8-question format. We will be taking some live questions, I believe, at the end here. This is the last question, however, in the set format. Mark Seligman, you're going to be up first on this one. In 2017, the Board of Commissioners declared a housing emergency within the unincorporated areas of the county. How are you planning to address homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Josephine County?
Recently, I gathered $30 and fed the homeless at a laundromat in Grants Pass. My heart goes out to people that are homeless. Unfortunately, some of the members of the Board of County Commissioners feels that these homeless people are all alcoholics and drug addicts, and that's not the case. I see compassion as an important role for county commissioners. Now, regarding homelessness, Dan DeYoung, as a city councilor, helped to criminalize the homeless. He's still criminalizing the homeless with panhandling ordinances that the American civil liberties have ruled against. So remember what the Daily Courier said about Dan DeYoung? I'd believe about one word about what he said. I want to help the homeless. You can't trust county commissioners that have criminalized the homeless in the past. We must have compassion.
Thanks, Mark. Dan Mancuso?
You know, that's a lot of a question for 60 seconds. So I'm going to go with the homeless issue. The homeless issue is not an easy one to solve, and there's many facets to that. For starters, we have families that are displaced through no fault of their own. And I believe that it is the responsibility of cities and the county to actually provide a place for these people where they can maintain proper hygiene so they can gain or maintain their current employment until they find another suitable housing and temporary where they have background checks and it's a safe environment. The other thing is the county pays millions of dollars to options. And as county commissioner, I'm going to negotiate a better deal where they do what we want them to. And what that is provide street level services for mental health and drug and alcohol addiction. If we can get people, mentally ill people, to take their medicine on a regular basis and get people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol to try to change their path, they actually have homes they can go to, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan. Dan DeYoung, you're next.
Yeah, well, over the years, we have gone from back in the old days, I guess I can call it, there used to be what was called a 235 house program, where it was a very basic house. It was had baseboard heat in it, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and it was 2-by-4 studs. And basically, it was an entry-level home. It kept me dry and it kept me warm, kept my family dry and kept my family warm. We can't build that house anymore. We put so many different requirements on the new housing contractors that in order to build that house, any house at all, you've got to have a garage door opener, you've got to have, everything, a heat pump and so on and so forth. And when you do that, you price out a whole lot of people out of the market. Locally, on a quick fix type thing, we also brought in what was called ADUs. We approved ADUs, which is auxiliary dwelling units for existing homes in the rural Josephine County. And that's helped out quite a bit to allow another little house associated with your primary residence in order to house maybe your son-in-law and daughter and their family.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Ron Smith, you're in the home stretch here.
I'll repeat that question again. I think it was a 2-part question, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. In 2017, the Board of Commissioners declared a housing emergency within the unincorporated areas of the county. How are you planning to address homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Josephine County?
I think they're intertwined, and I think a 3-pronged approach would serve as well. One is we need affordable housing, or should I say reasonably priced housing. And 2, we need law enforcement, and we need the drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers. Those 3 working together can help really reduce the homeless problem in our county. Housing is a sticky one because state law is very restrictive. most developments must take place inside the urban growth boundaries for any number of homes. There's a development going in Grants Pass. They're going to build fourplexes and duplexes. I'd love to see something like that happen in Cave Junction. Would really alleviate the housing problem there. Because some people are homeless because of cost of housing. Some people are homeless because of mental illness. Some are homeless because of drug and alcohol addiction. It's a sticky situation. It's going to take a multiple faceted approach to it because not just one issue.
Thanks, Ron. That wraps up the main portion, the main segment of questions tonight, but we also have some time, I think. Lindsey, do we have time for some? Very good. We have time for some live questions. I've been looking at some of the questions that have been submitted to me, and I really like the a question that was, this gets back to something we were talking about earlier, but a question, one of our audience members, Janet Lancaster, I don't know if she is still here for us. Janet Lancaster had a question about the fire district question. And as I understand it, Forrest can unmute her and then Janet can ask the question herself if she's still here. I would try to keep it tight.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Great.
we can.
Okay, now I have to pull up the chat window, and so I make sure I ask it exactly the way.
You posed it?
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. All right. So the current slate of county commissioners have not committed to putting the matter of forming a rural fire protection district in the unprotected area on the ballot this November, in spite of an advisory vote last May where 65% of the people that voted said, yes, we want the county to begin the process to form a rural fire protection district. Questions, yes or no questions? Should fire protection in the unprotected area be determined by a vote of the 35,000 people that live here or by 2 county commissioners? That's the first question. And second, if you are elected county commissioner and a rural fire district is not formed this year, will you support putting a measure for a rural fire protection district to the voters on the ballot in May 2021?
Okay, thanks, Janet. I'm going to go back to the rotation that we had at the very start since we were at the end. And Ron, if you recall, you were number 1. You're going to go first again this time.
Well, I think it's a little premature. The question put to the voters was, would you want us to start the process? And that's exactly what happened. The board has started the process. A lot of details to work out. For one, we don't know what the structure looks like. We don't know exactly what area it's going to cover. And we definitely do not know what the cost is going to be. So I think it's a little premature to say, yes, I'm for something that benefits the people, but I'm surely not for something that's going to gouge the people with higher taxes. How's it going to be structured? Is there going to be a maximum amount of tax increase per year? That's an important issue. Because like I said, a taxing district, that's what you're asking for, the fire district. It's like an irrigation district or a library district. It never goes away. One thing I can tell you, the taxes never go down. So what kind of regulations and what kind of structure we're going to have and what's it going to cost? I really can't answer that question if I'm for that. I'm for the idea. But let's see how the idea pans out and what it costs the taxpayer.
All right, thanks. Hey, Mark Seligman, you're up next.
Okay, once again, we are a county that's about to enter a recession if we're not already in it. If we're going to have a fire district, let the people in that area vote on it. If they want to gather the signatures and put it on the ballot, that is their right to do it. But again, my position on it is I wouldn't put it on the ballot because it's just another tax, and people are just trying to save their homes and pay their property taxes. People don't have jobs. Drive around Grants Pass. We can't be acting like we're in some kind of a fantasy land. We're going to be in an extreme, we have unemployment rates of over 20%. We can't be putting more taxes on people. If you want to pay rural metro subscription rate, that's fine. You can't force people into paying more taxes.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Dan Mancuso?
I believe it was a yes or no question, and undoubtedly my answer is yes. 60% of the voters in that region said yes. And the last thing we need is Hugo, the fire in Hugo last year or 2 years ago, to turn it into another paradise. So yes, without a doubt.
Okay, thanks. Dan DeYoung.
Yes, to answer Janet's question, first off, I think it really needs to go to the people that are not protected right now with the Illinois Valley Fire District. They're the only ones, and Wolf Creek, they're the people that are not in a present fire district. They're the ones going to be the ones that in the unincorporated areas, they're the ones that are going to get the ballot. So it's those voters that will be deciding, making a decision. And that we're only going to get one bite at this apple. So in answer to Janet's question, I know Janet's worked hard on this thing, but I think if we're not really ready with something that is going to be palatable to the voter in November, I think we should definitely wait until May and make sure we get it right, Janet. I think there's a pretty highly functioning committee out there that's working on this. And when it does go to the voter, I think it needs to be done right. It needs to be worded right, and everybody understands what it's going to cost. Ron's absolutely right. We don't know what the cost of this is, but when it goes on the ballot, all of that will be stated on the ballot measure itself. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. Got time for another live question from one of our audience members. Wendy Williams, are you out there?
Yes.
All right. The question about the fires and helping people in winter storms. Why don't you go ahead and ask that?
Okay, let's see here. I'm going to not look at the box and try to remember exactly how I said it.
Okay.
I'm curious, as a Josephine County or some that live in the Illinois Valley member, what is your thought on what's your responsibility during fire season and or winter time during a storm as far as a meeting? I mean, like, do I see an emergency going on? Like, what can we do? Where can I go? Where do you feel your perspective is in that, if you're a commissioner?
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Dan DeYoung, you're up first on this one.
If we've gone through some storm events here in the last few years, some heavy snows, especially out in the Illinois Valley regions, and our public works department, of course, works tirelessly out there. They're blading roads and whatnot. I know there was some controversy that they bladed the road and blocked my driveway, but they're doing their best they can. You get a lot more snow and a lot more events out there. Plus, you're right smack in the middle of those fire events almost every year. We're looking at the Illinois Valley Airport. I'd like to see there was some talk about moving a fire base out there, and possibility of using, once we get the retention pond in for the standby fire for the industrial park, that might be a source for water for dipping for helicopters and have a closer proximity to the fire, especially right there in the Illinois and right around. We had some real serious issues with the town of Selma a couple times in the last few years. So I think we're working at it, but there's an awful lot of attention goes to the Illinois Valley, because you do get more problems out there than we do, for instance, in town.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Ron Smith.
What was the question, please?
The question is, what do you think is your responsibility to the county people in the county during fires and or winter storms as a commissioner or a human being?
I think the biggest thing a commissioner, elected officials can do is keep in communication with the people. Update them regularly on what's taking place. Give them information on where there's shelter, exactly what's going on, where power. You have an emergency management agency in the county that does an excellent job handling that. There's an alert system. You can log into that alert system, and you can get alerted to these things. I think the biggest thing that a commissioner needs to do is communicate with the people in the county. Let them know what's going on. So as far as that responsibility, yes. Also, a part of what his job is going to be to coordinate and to get that information from, in our county, most likely the power is going to be on federal land, since how 70% of it's federal land. So you're going to need to coordinate with the federal agencies that are fighting that power, and OF and ODF. You need to coordinate with those agencies and then pass that information along to the people in the county so they know. When you're in the dark, things can get scarier.
Thanks, Ron. Mark Seligman, you're up.
The job of a county commissioner is always, they're like the president, is to always reassure the public that the county government has their interests at heart. Regarding fire, it's really important that people, have defensible fire space. That's my work. I clear land. I take away people's fire hazards. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'm told for $750 per acre, you can get a grant to make your land safer. This is the stuff that people should know. We all have to breathe this smoke year after year. Responsible, selective logging, I'm all in favor of, because this will help our safety. County commissioners can coordinate this type of behavior of citizens in alliance with government. Storms in general, the county does a pretty good job regarding public works and what they do, but communication by public officials with the public, especially during fire season, I'm all in favor of that.
Okay. Dan Mancuso, you are again in the late position here.
Well, Chris, we are not all by ourselves. We have regional partners like the Red Cross that can come in and help with when we have disasters. Our emergency management team, I think, is pretty top notch. I would say that there's been maybe a failure in the leadership of the county as far as promoting. We only know about the 1, 2, 3 scenario when we have fires, but we really don't know. It hasn't been widely promoted to the county residents when we have other things. I mean, a Cascadia event could happen tomorrow. We don't have the leeway that we have in a fire type situation. So I think that I just think that that the only really thing that we can do right now that I would do to improve is to make sure that we have some sort of marketing campaign so that the residents of Josephine County fully understand what our emergency management plan is for each individual crisis, because we really have about 3: fire, earthquake, and now we have pandemics. So.
Wow, that's right. Okay, guys, that is it tonight. We are right on top of the 8:15 mark. And it is now time for it's time to wrap up with closing statements from the candidates. As with the opening statements, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes, and the order they go in will be random. Lindsey, can you pick the first name out of the bag, please? It looks like it's Dan DeYoung. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, in wrapping things up, actually listening to all 4 candidates, I really didn't hear a great big complaint, anyone really pointed complaint against how the county is being run right now. I'm very satisfied. There's some nuances that need to be worked on, and that's on a day-to-day basis. If you do become county commissioner, you'll be surprised at how many times a day somebody will walk in here with a problem. I was in business for 41 years, and my frustration is that we spend a lot of time at meetings. And when I came in here, I said, I hope you like meetings because you're going to go to a lot of them. Well, when I was in business, when a problem walked through my door, a solution had to walk out. So, I get a little, maybe in a hurry sometimes. But, I like to see things done. And I think we've done a pretty good job, the team as it is right now. And, of course, we had Simon Hare for the first 2 years of that. He's the guy that did an awful lot of the tough work before Commissioner Morgan and I even got here. To a certain extent, our predecessors, Keith Heck and Cheryl Walker, even Harold Haugen, Don Reedy, all of them, our predecessors really formed a pretty good operation for us for when Commissioner Morgan and I took office in 18. But I think going forward, I really want to do. There's some things we've gotten started with the airports. I want my like for instance, Larry Graves, he's the airport director. He's got a 1,500-foot runway expansion at Grants Pass. He's got a $4 million runway recap and the industrial park fire suppression system for Illinois Valley Airport. I want to see these people, you know, see their dreams through with Tamara Martin and the fairgrounds and the introduction of Love Abounds and TMB racing. So I want to be here for that, and I hope you'll elect me. I really like the job, and I enjoy working for each and every one of you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. We're gonna pick the next candidate for closing arguments, or I guess it's closing statements. This isn't a trial. It's gonna be Dan Mancuso.
Hello. You know, like I've said, I have a love of Josephine County. I think that I fell in love with her from the first time I met her. I have a good, solid business background. I'm not afraid of technology. As a news professional, I'm used to doing my research. I'm used to looking at things from all possible points of view. I'm not going to do anything sloppy like vote to do things because I didn't do my homework, because I just took someone's opinion. I'm not going to have land use decisions overturned by LUBA because they were done sloppily. I just think that you're going to have the commitment, the full commitment of Dan Mancuso, who understands that this job is a 50 to 60 hour a week job, that it requires a lot of learning. It requires a lot of research. And as far as listening to the people go, you know, I talk to people every day in my line of work. I hear a lot of positions that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm able to have a civil conversation with them. I believe that I will work very well with Darren Fowler. I think Darren and I agree on a lot of things. I think Dan and I actually agree on more than we disagree. I just don't think he has the energy to go through with the commitment that this job takes. And I want to thank the IVCDO and the Courier for giving us this opportunity to speak. This is a weird thing for us to do this by teleconference or by video conference. And I just hope that everybody in Josephine County realizes that I don't come with any gimmicks, that it's good old-fashioned common sense, and I'm going to be honest with you, and that you know, I'm only running one time. You know, I'm actually going to listen to the people, and if the people don't want me, then so be it. But I do ask that you hire me on May 19th.
All right, thanks, Dan. We're going to pick our third candidate for closing statement here, and it's going to be Ron Smith.
Well, thank you guys for putting this forum on. Had you not done this, we wouldn't have had this forum. I guess there's two others scheduled through Zoom. I hope all the other candidates know that. I was born in Josephine County. My family homesteaded here well over 100 years ago. I lived most of my adult life right in the Illinois Valley. In fact, I was nominated Citizen of the Year by the Illinois Valley Cape Junction Chamber of Commerce for my community activity back in the year 2000, a while ago. So I've been at this a long time. I've been working on the people's side of government for well over 20 years, defending our property rights, making sure we can maintain some liberty and freedom, which seems like because of this pandemic, we may have lost quite a bit. That would be a sad day. But I really want to serve the people in Josephine County. I want to help them have a better quality of life. I want Josephine County to be a great place to grow up like it was when I grew up as a kid, so you can raise your family in safety. I think we're going to need law enforcement. Our big scourge in the county right now is meth and heroin. Has anybody had a family member get involved in meth? I'm telling you, I have a heartbreaker story that my brother's son got involved with meth, and now he's got squatters in his dad's house while he was in the hospital, and there's nothing he can do. In other words, if you go on vacation, these meth heads can move into your house, claim squatters' rights, and you can't get them out. Is that right? Is that America? See, these kind of injustices need to be corrected. You need somebody with some integrity, some moral fortitude, somebody with the guts to take these hard issues on. That's me. I'm Ron Smith, Josephine County Commissioner, candidate, position 2. And I love the Illinois Valley. and the people in it. And I really have my heart in the county of Josephine. I almost died here once. I'm living here the rest of my life where my kids live and my grandkids live. And hopefully it's a great place for my grandkids.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. Thanks to process of elimination, that means Mark Seligman is going last. You are really in the cleanup position this time, Mark.
I hope we can hit a home run here. I want to thank all of the parties that helped put this on in this COVID-19 crisis. I really sincerely want to thank you for letting the public know how candidates stand. I will say I have been to more physically attending and speaking, other than Commissioner DeYoung, who sits up front. I've been to more county commissioner meetings than anybody else who's running for county office right now. We have a great county. When we get through this COVID-19, I'm looking for the faith and hope from every citizen so that we can have some prosperity. I'm an issue-oriented guy. Hopefully, we're not going to win because it's a popularity contest. I'm against excessive taxation. I don't support excessive taxation, property taxes, sales tax, lodging tax, gas tax, or cannabis growers tax. I am a land use regulation. I'm not into that when it hurts businesses. I want to incentivize businesses. I support less government and less bureaucracy. I won't be a commissioner that supports more bureaucracy and more government. I want to benefit individuals and business, not county coffers. I want to help the homeless, not criminalize them. I'm for prosperity for all, not just a select few. I will serve taxpayers better by not agreeing to additional PERS expenses that the current board has. I'm a no new taxes guy. I want compassion for the homeless, compassion for seniors. I respect law enforcement. I will never alter my oath of office like Commissioner DeYoung has done. But the bottom line is we have a COVID-19 crisis right now, and I have the revolutionary tax holiday until we get through this crisis. $31.5 million that the county won't get, they should get from SRS payments and government stimulus. So again, my name is Mark Seligman. I'm running for position 2. I'm a controversial centrist. I will never lie to you. I will always tell you the truth. Vote Mark Seligman 2020. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I'd like to thank all the candidates and the audience for their participation tonight, particularly Janet Lancaster and Wendy Williams. I'd also like to thank Jimmy Evans, the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization, and KXCJ. I am being told that a recording of tonight's event will be available as soon as possible at illinoisvalleyweb.org, and radio rebroadcast will be hosted by Cave Junction Community Radio Station KXCJ, which is at 105.7 FM, and that will be at this Friday at 6 p.m. and this Sunday at 1 p.m. And at this stage, I'm just going to say it's been a pleasure and good evening, and I'm going to hand it back to Lindsey.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chris, so much for moderating tonight. Thank you to the Grants Pass Daily Courier. As I said at the beginning, if you caught the beginning end of this, the candidate forum for position 3 is scheduled for next Wednesday, and we've received confirmation from one candidate but not the other. We will not proceed if we don't receive both candidates' confirmation. So watch the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization's Facebook page for more information. And that's all for tonight. I see we have some comments on how this went for you in our chat box. And I just want to thank you all for participating. If you have more feedback, you can always email info@ivcdo.org or comment on the Facebook event page. So thank you again so much for attending, and we'll end it here.
All right. Good night.
Good night.